it was 16 years ago. I was in ministerial school, and I remember being in a conversation. This wasn't in a class, but one of the instructors was kind of leading a study session, a prayer session, and he made the remark that I'd never heard before. I've heard it several times since, but that the work of a minister is either to comfort the afflicted or to afflict the comfortable. Which, there's truth to that. And as I kind of think about my path in ministry, I think much of my work has been really on the side of comforting the afflicted. That seems to be the presence that I bring, to sort of be an available presence, and for those who might be in pain, to just provide encouragement or inspiration. I think if my job is on the continuum, I'm pretty heavily weighted to the comforting side of the afflicted. And that's really the intention that I think Reverend Christina and I had when we started to think about this October series. We're like, right now is a really difficult time on the planet in U.S. politics and civil rights and justice. There's just so much, like, all of us are afflicted right now, and all of us are in need of comfort to some extent. And then last week, when the talk came out, what I realized is that I'm like kind of afflicting the afflicted, right? If we're all afflicted right now, rather than provide comfort last week, I was really saying, we've set the bar too low, that we are incredibly powerful spiritual beings, and now is the time that we really need to bring the understanding that we have about how truth works, about how God works in our lives in the world, and it's really up to us. It's up to us to step it up. It's up to us to be that loving presence, even when the energy around us might not be loving. So I'm realizing that I'm completely going against my tendency in ministry for the last 16 years to suggest that, I understand that it's a difficult and sometimes challenging and painful time for all of us. To some extent, everyone is touched by the stuff happening in the world right now. And we have been created in this time and place, in this era of history. We've been created, and we have been developing our spiritual muscles all this time for such a time as this. So I'm kind of going to continue on the afflicted path today. Just fair warning. I know last week it had some people thinking about, how is it that I can be more loving in the face of rhetoric and divisiveness that feels everything but loving? And I think those are good questions for us to be entertaining right now. So the question that I'm bringing forth this week is really about, or maybe it's the practice I'm bringing forth this week, is really about how we connect with our deepest purpose. What is our deepest why? Because once we understand that, I believe that it changes how we prioritize and how we show up in different circumstances in our lives. When we know who we are and what we're about and why we're here, oh, I'm sorry, there's a siren going off. Sorry for that distraction. Maybe it lends urgency to what I'm saying, I don't know. So, but it's about why. It's about how are we going to move into a place of really understanding our deepest why and getting a grasp on that, And to some extent, I feel like what we're talking about is calling. Ugh. Go sirens. That what we're talking about is a calling. And I think for a lot of us, that word calling actually raises the anxiety level around stepping into our purpose, right? Because it's like, I have this calling. My minister tells me I have a special calling and special gifts to share, but we're like trying to figure it out. What's my calling? What is that? How do I show up for that? And what I'm here to say today is let go of that. You don't need to go finding your calling. Your calling has already found you. What your calling is, what your deepest purpose is, your why for being on the planet has been expressing itself through you and through the way that you show up your whole life. So really, it's not about trying to figure out what the calling is. It's about relaxing and moving into who you already are and how you're already showing up and being able to remember that so that you can prioritize where you put your energies, where you spend time in conversation with people, right? Once we know our deepest why. Sorry, it looked like I got muted there. Not sure how long ago that happened. So relaxing into your deepest why. What I want you to know is that I've been working on this myself because I was in that same place of what's my purpose? How am I supposed to show up through this crazy stuff? And I had some help and support from a wonderful minister called Reverend Kelly Isola. Many of you who get Unity Publications will recognize her name. She's a very prolific writer, and her name shows up a lot in some of the worldwide ministry stuff. So I had met her before and been doing some work, but she coached me through how it is that I discover my deepest why. And it's not even how I discover, but how I recognize or remember how it gets revealed, right? And so in that work, I want to share with you kind of what the process was, and then just an example of sort of what came out of that process. So for me, and actually the board went back and did the same work after I did on behalf of the whole ministry. So there's a couple of deepest whys I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes. My personal deepest why, and then who our board has kind of discerned is the deepest why of our community, why we're showing up, why this organization, Unity on the North Shore, is on the planet and doing work in the world. And again, this is work we've been doing all along. This isn't anything that we had to figure out. It was really just a matter of bringing our stories forth and letting it be revealed, letting the words kind of come to it. So I share it because what I believe is that that's true for all of us. Our deepest why, we've been living all along. We already are. And so as I'm sort of talking about the process and the two deepest whys that we've identified for me and for our ministry, I want you to be thinking about, all right, what's my deepest why? And at this point, it might not be some flowery phrase. It might just be a single word that is how you intend to show up in the world and how you have been showing up for those who know you best. How is it that you move through life in that way? So the way it was revealed through this process that Reverend Kelly shared is that we first begin by thinking about the stories where we felt like the greatest aha, where we felt really aligned, where it's like, I was involved in something, in an interaction, in an event, in an experience, and something in that just made my heart sing. It's like, wow, everything about that experience felt like I was on purpose and aligned with the divine and aligned with God. And some of those experiences, as we began to reveal those for the community, like actually brought us to the point of tears. It was like, because it's that clear when you're in that space, like, wow, that's what I've been doing. So in my work with Kelly, I shared these stories about having been with people at times of difficulty or times of challenge and just being a comforting presence. You know, it didn't matter what I said. It was really just me being there and being attentive and being available to listen and being able to see that there's a greater wisdom maybe than that person was experiencing in the moment. So had a few of those stories and they kept coming up, and Reverend Kelly would keep saying, you know, that's the same kind of thing you just described in that last story. So when we got down to the point of trying to articulate it, I'll just share with you what I kind of came up with here. And I've been trying to live from a greater awareness of this as my why, the reason I'm, as Kelly would say, sucking air on the planet, that this is it, right? I am here to be an awakening presence, here to alleviate suffering so that others may know their sacred worth. Here to be an awakening presence so others may know their sacred worth. I left out the part about alleviating suffering because I feel like I'm in that afflicting part right now, right? So, but here to be an awakening presence, that's something I'm doing my whole life, have been doing my whole life, so that others may know their own sacred worth. That resonated with me as like, yeah, that's it. I don't got to figure it out. I've shown up that way a number of times. It's kind of who I am and who I'm becoming all at the same time. So the board went through the same process for us as an organization. We started telling stories about events or experiences that we had witnessed or that we had shared together in our work as Unity on the North Shore. And the same process kind of happened. It took a while, and some of us, I know, it got kind of like, oh, these are the same words we've heard over and over, and it seems like it was all kind of canned, and there's a point where you just kind of want to give in and give up, but we stuck with it. And one of the stories that John Lindner shared that really was like one of those moments where it's like, yeah, that is kind of how we show up, was at a meeting for our Right and Perfect Home process. Those of you who have been around know that we've been trying to figure out what to do with our building now for a couple of years. And we've been moving forward with that process. And there was at one point with a meeting with some contractors, some real estate consultants that we've hired. And around the table was just this amazing diversity of people and points of view and perspectives. And it's not that we really were totally consciously aware of it at the moment, but when the meeting had ended and we realized that everyone had spoken their truth into that circle, and that we had ages represented from folks in high school all the way to folks in their 80s, that we had black people and white people and brown people all around this little table of like 20 of us. And it felt like we had come to an understanding to move this process forward in a way that is really uncommon in the world. You know, it's not often that you're sitting around a table with that many voices represented and with the capacity to be able to share authentically and to really be who we are. So it's in that moment that I think we all caught it. We all felt it. Like, that's a piece of what we're wanting to express. And then we went on and tried to put words to it and split off in small groups. And eventually, you know, after we sort of got tired, it was actually Clay Lindner, who's the youngest among our board members. He's our youth representative, who really hit on the notion that it's like, yeah, that's what we've been doing all along. That's who we are. That's how we're showing up. So I want to share that with you. And for anyone who's on the team and has co-host capabilities, I would invite you to, I should have aligned this up earlier, but if you can, jot it down and put it in the chat stream so it's there for people to read and to ponder and to just let it play on their hearts. But the why, the purpose statement, the reason that Unity on the North Shore is sucking air, at least the version that we're working with, or the statement that we're working with now as a board, is this: we create a safe place where people are empowered to take risks and to live their deepest truth. We create a safe place where people are empowered to take risks and live their deepest truths. And as we started to think about examples of people who have really come in hungry to know Spirit more deeply and have transformed their whole lives, left careers, moved to other parts of the country. We have so many stories of people being empowered and stepping into what was their most authentic selves. And so it resonated with us in a way that was absolutely beautiful, right? And that's something we've been doing all along. It's something that was a part of our history, right? Not just this current iteration of Unity on the North Shore, but it's already there. It's just for us to claim it. So what I'd like to suggest, and I'm kind of looking at time here because we've got a wonderful experience coming up that is a kind of affirmation of stepping into our truest, deepest purpose for our prayer chaplains for this year. So what I'm going to suggest is that just open your heart to a revelation of Spirit, to who you truly already are, who you already are being, and start to think about your past. Think about experiences that you've had where you really felt as though you were on purpose, where it's like you were just in awe of the contribution that you were able to make without even having it being effortful. It's just who you are and how you show up. And start to think about those experiences. And then maybe there's a word that describes it, and if there's some other language you can put to it, begin to hold that, you know, this deepest why, as we move through these next few weeks, where I believe we are all being called out, both individually and collectively, to live that deepest why. You know, we are here to be the change that's gonna affect the challenges of the world, not only the election, but beyond that. We are here to bring forth what's most heartfelt, what's our deepest truth in our heart. Yeah? Okay, here's one more thing. I'm going to work it in quickly. I was going to try and cut it short here, but I'm going to work it in. So, biblical example. If you think about Samuel was taken to Eli, the prophet Eli, at a very young age, and was living into his deepest truth. And when that was revealed to him, when God actually revealed itself to him, was deep in the deep dark night, and he heard a call. And what he heard was, or what he responded to was, he went into Eli and said, Here I am, Eli. What did you need? What were you looking for?" And that happened a couple of times, to the point that he's like, "Okay, Eli, I know you're just messing with me now. Here I am. What do you want?" And that's when Eli recognized, look, this is the divine within him speaking, right? Go back to bed and just admit that, here I am, your servant is listening. The reason I share that example is because it's not you might be waiting for some divine voice from on high to reveal to you who you truly are, your deepest why. And very often, it shows up in the experiences and in the people and through the people that we are most familiar with. So start to pay attention to kids and colleagues. Start to pay attention to how Spirit is revealing your deepest why by the way you show up as you already are with the people that you hold most dearly in your heart. It might not be some great divine proclamation. I mean, maybe it will, maybe you'll experience it that way. But more often, Spirit shows up in the ways in which we're already familiar. Yeah? So we're going to move into a time of meditation. Dedri's going to prepare us, and then I'm going to try and keep it a little bit shorter than usual so that we have time to really experience and live into and feel the dedication of our next year's chaplains. Yes? So Deidre, if you would kind of prepare the space for our meditation, then I would invite folks to just get comfortable and allow her energy to lead you into a time of quiet and reflection.
When I go into the stillness, held by the light of my heart, and I let go of the weight of the world, love is the place where I start. When I go into the stillness, held by the light of my heart, and I let go of the weight of the world, I am at home in my heart.
And so now as we move into this time of stillness, this time of moving deeply into our hearts, we simply open our minds and thoughts and hearts that we might be available to the power and presence of the divine, that we might become aware of what already is so in terms of our truest identity, our most authentic sacred selves. We know and trust that as we show up in life, as we engage others from that space of our most authentic sacred selves, that it's the greatest gift we can give to them that we're engaged in, to ourselves, but also to the healing of the planet. And so we're going to rest now in just a moment of silence, and what I would invite you into is a sort of questioning, a curiosity, that Spirit might reveal to you the quality that is most naturally yours, the way that you show up, that your deepest why can be conveyed, can be suggested, just in a simple word. And so as we move into a time of quiet now, I invite you to just open your mind and heart and let Spirit reveal who you already are, that we might more intentionally engage the world as we move forward. Just a few minutes in quiet, opening and listening for the revelation of who you already are, how you're already showing up for all those whom you care about and for those who are closest to you. Listen in the silence. And so now I would invite you to take 3 deep breaths. And perhaps a word was revealed to you, a word was suggested, that's great. Perhaps it's still coming, but you have set the intention to know your deepest why more fully. And as we bring this time of meditation to a close, I would invite you to go ahead and if you do have a word that describes your purpose, that describes why you're here, as Kelly said, sucking air on the planet, I invite you to just share that in the chat stream so that we can begin to see the incredible power of our deepest why as it's reflected in this beautiful community that we shaped, that we create together. So we know and trust, dear God, that as we come from our most authentic selves, as we're fully aware and fully intentional about our deepest why, that truly we bring the kingdom on earth. We bring forth the kingdom on earth. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
When I go into the stillness, held by the light of my
Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If Unity's message of positive spiritual living resonates with you, I hope you'll subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date on other lessons as we post them. Also, if you're able to support us financially in the work that we do in the world, please check below for contact information. You can visit our website, find more about what programming we offer, as well as how to give. Blessings.